Welcome. I'm Chairman J.D. Neely of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, and we are honored to be up here at Petit Jean State Park for our September meeting. It has been a great monthly meeting up here. Our state park sister agency up here has been a wonderful staff, and everything's been perfect, the facilities. So we have certainly owe them a thank you. Yesterday, a great day for our tour. Thank you, staff, for setting that up, and I think we all enjoyed it. Didn't need rubber boots as much as we thought we would, but it was a great trip. With that, I'm going to call our meeting to order. And first off, we have... we'll do our prayer, and let me welcome a few guests before we get into that. We have Kathy and Ronnie Ritter here with us. Thank y'all for coming. Our Hunter Feed the Hungry team. We have Chaplain Ted Darling here with us. It's going to do our prayer here shortly. Thank you for coming, Chaplain Darling. Josh Stewart with the Governor's Office. Thank you for coming up, Josh. And our two special guests, Nikki Finley and Beth Neely, who keep us, Rob and I, straight. So again, thank you and welcome guests. If y'all would please stand with me, and Chaplain Darling lead us in prayer.
Would you pray with me? Father, thank you for this awesome day, and we can't help but feel touched in a very special way as we're here in nature, and Lord, you just have blessed us so much. You blessed the history of this nation. We are such a gifted people, and you blessed us with raw materials and natural resources, and we thank you. And then you provided for us in the early days of the history of this nation, men and women who patterned and really performed a tremendous task to bring forth this republic. We thank you for that. And we find ourselves in some troubling days, but we look to you for your guidance, for your direction. As well, we pray your blessings upon this meeting, upon this commission, this agency. We pray for wisdom, we pray for guidance, and we honor you with all that they do. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. All right. First matter is approval of today's agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented? All right, I have a motion to approve the agenda. I need a second. Second by Commissioner Caldwell. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. All right, motion's passed. Next, we need an approval of the August 15th, 2024 Commission meeting notes. Any additions or deletings to these notes? Need a motion to approve. Motion from Commissioner Finley, second by Commissioner Doremus. All in favor say aye. Aye. The motion's carried. All right, we now have staff presentations. Let me call up Jeremy Brown with our DMAP program. We're excited to hear a good update from Jeremy. And Jeremy, you've got some extra guests with you today.
He started off as a technician, was a biologist, assistant deer program coordinator, now runs the DMAP program, and I consider him probably runs the premier deer management system program for the South. I went to the deer study here with Jeremy, and very well respected in that community. So I'm proud to have him on my staff. I had a community. I didn't hire him. I'm glad
Appreciate that, Randy. Thank you. I'm tickled to be here today. I do got some extra guests. I've got a lot of good news. It's been a little bit over a year since I've got the opportunity to talk in front of the commission, so I'm thankful to be back. I'm glad to be able to share some of the news I've got. About a little over a year ago, we created the DMAP coordinator position, so I was the first one to get to fill that. And so the talk today it's about our revitalization year. I call it the first year, but it's kind of what we've done since the last time I've got up here in front of you and how we've kind of transitioned from what we used to do. I'll start off with just a little bit of background on DMAP, things that are important to always remember is the Deer Management Assistance Program is a free program, and there's other free programs across the southeastern U.S., but it's one of the things that's unique to us is we maintain that free level of assistance. It's geared towards helping those clubs manage their deer herd and their habitats as well. It's not new information at all that we know that nearly 90% of Arkansas is privately owned. So we fully recognize that it's the sportsmen and the women out there that's got the crosshairs on the deer. We're about to thump string on with our bow. Those are the folks that's making those management decisions, whether or not if it's a buck or it's a doe. But even more importantly, those same folks that's holding the firearms and the bows, making those decisions, they're the same ones that's making the decisions on the habitat as well. So it's not only the fact that they're changing the number of miles on the landscape, but they have a significant impact on the habitat on our private lands. Sure.
I think we need to keep up with the times. We want you to have a picture past that bow line. Go down and throw the spear.
We could probably get one photo chopped in pretty easy there. Yep. We got to adapt anyway with the times. Yeah, that's a good point. To the goals of what basically we're trying to use quality deer management principles to help these clubs, provide them technical assistance to meet specific management goals that each club has. Each club has a different goal, but while we're providing that assistance, we're trying to increase the quality of the local deer data. We have a goal of a robust data set. So each club is collecting biometrics off the deer they harvest. They feed us with that information, and not only are we're doing site-specific data collection on each deer, we pull that together to build a robust data set that helps us manage deer on the landscape for the whole state, helps the deer program with Ralph and how he sets regulations, helps us with the strategic deer plan. So that's a big goal that we have with the program. We help other conservation agencies, partners, when we have special needs to have deer removal opportunities. That's what this program's here for. And just overall a goal of reducing the deer and human conflicts, as we know sometimes those can get kind of hot topics sometimes. So how do we do this? How do we implement this program? I wanted to put this slide up here to let you know that in the past year we've kind of had a little bit of a restructuring. The map on the left is kind of how we've operated historically. We've had 13 game and fish biologists that were typically PLBs, but various divisions, wildlife division, private division, lands division, and we've had 13 of these biologists work in 11 different regions. So the first thing we really done was we restructured and condensed our regions down to just 8. Now these 8 regions, DMAP is operating with 11 biologists, so there's a little bit fewer biologists, but I'll point out that the folks that I'll introduce here in just a minute is we now have a cost share agreement with the National Deer Association, and that's one of our biggest steps we've made this year. Is this agreement's allowed us to hire 5 new positions that these are not positions that works on many other programs like our PLBs do. These are positions that are 40 hours a week. They wake up, eat, breathe, and sleep DMAP and helping landowners put habitat on the ground. You can see the regions that these are located at with the NDA logo on those. So we still got 3 regions that are operated by our PLBs in our states in the South and then the Northwest. Just a little bit more detail on what this cost share agreement and how important it was to this program is these 5 new positions through NDA has shouldered the workload of 68% of the club assignments in the state. So not only are they shouldering that 68%, but those 5 individuals has relieved that workload burden from 8 of our current private lands biologists to allow them to focus more on other programs like CIP or the Farm Bureau programs. And so it's helped spread the workload out and let us provide a higher quality product to the landowner. The NDA folks in those 5 regions, they're averaging about 91 clubs per biologist, and then the game and fish biologists, the 6 that we have, they're averaging right around that 42 clubs per biologist. So you can see how it's kind of helped with the balancing the workloads. If I could, I'll ask the NDA staff to stand up so everybody can meet them, because I can't tell you truly how much I appreciate the National Deer Association for stepping up and offering this partnership with us, and support from the commission and our directorate to help put this into play, because this was kind of my anxiety level got a little heated there when I realized I'm fixing to be implementing stuff without this, and this really come through for us. But we got Clayton Thompson. He is in our north central region. Colton Morris works in the northeast part of the state, and Eric Toby is over in the Fort Smith office out and works in our western Arkansas. Christian Moeller is in eastern Arkansas, and then Raul Cabredo is our central Arkansas DMAP biologist. So at least take that opportunity to let everybody get introduced to them, because we're very extremely appreciative of this agreement, and I think the numbers I'm going to get to here shortly is going to show why this is a big benefit to us. Improvement-wise, not only do we have NDA positions in, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Greenway corporate sponsorship. It has been a help to us. It's allowed us to do some field days, these demo days, like the picture you see here. Gets us connected with landowners. Greenway's been great about coming about, setting up equipment. It's allowing us to give that assistance to that landowner on not only what equipment to use, how to use that equipment, and when it should be used, how to really put habitat work on the ground. Done a few DMAT workshops, whether it was a cooperative workshop, a recruitment workshop, or just educational. They've always been there to help support and provide that habitat assistance when needed. A couple of timber industry workshops in the past year. We've met with Green Bay about a year ago, and then we've more recently met with Weyerhaeuser. So we're trying to get into that a little bit more, provide more options for the leased company or DMAP clubs that lease from the timber companies. But I think you get the theme here. Overall we're increasing the habitat management component that DMAP did not once do. We're trying to do it bigger, trying to do it better, trying to make that footprint. I do got to stop for a minute. While I just mentioned we got 5 new staff, we've got 11 biologists that are implementing DMAP right now. And I think it's very important to hear this. Only 2 of these 11 biologists have done DMAP for more than 1 year. So we are a young, green team but yet the process is working. So you can see that there's a lot of training that's going involved, a lot of in-house training, because we've got folks that's new to the program. We're changing the program a little bit, revitalizing it. So we've got a new car we're driving. The National Deer Association, we've sent some staff up to Missouri to do their habitat modules to get deer-specific habitat training for them. All of our staff, by the end of the year, should be finishing up Deer Stewardship 1 training and be Deer Steward 1 certified. Within the next couple of weeks, I will have dates picked out through the NDA. We're going to bring NDA staff back and do Deer Steward 2 here in Arkansas. And so shortly, we should have everybody Deer Steward 2 certified. Another big improvement we've got, as you mentioned, Ronnie was here earlier, Ronnie and Kathy, we've got a partnership with Hunters Feeding the Hungry and the DMAP through the Deer Donation Program. This program has actually took off a lot faster than I did ever expect, but we started it a couple years ago as a pilot, as just getting some DMAP clubs to donate some deer because we needed it for the Snack Sticks program. But then we kept hearing this complaint or a concern from our clubs is, guys, y'all are telling us to shoot a lot of does, and we ain't got no freezer space for them. Meat processors are high. I can't afford to process 30 does. So we worked with Ronnie. We started talking about these refrigerated trailers that you see in the right picture here. So we schedule them out. We get them set up and let them shoot their deer and gut them, and they put them deer into these trailers. We come pull CWD samples. Our staff will come take them to the meat processor and get them donated for the Snack Sticks program. Last year, we had 3 clubs that participated. They donated 125 deer, and what that equated to was about 25,000 packages of those Snack Sticks that you see in the center that goes out to the school systems for those kids in the backpack programs. And that's just 3 clubs. And so we started to talk about how do we expand this? Because one, we're helping the club meet their goal. We're allowing them a disposal way of getting them deer out off their property. 2, it's helping the Hunters Feeding the Hungry meet the need for that demand of the venison that they need and helping the kids get that source of protein. But also we're getting CWD samples from all these, so it's helping meet our CWD sample quotas. So it's a win-win-win situation. Not only are we working on the refrigerated trailer part of it, but we solicit these clubs to sponsor financially some of this. So it's not only if you can't donate deer, that's all right. Well, you can financially sponsor this. So it's just really big. We have currently, this is actually, I shouldn't even say currently, it's out of date already as of last night, but we had 11 clubs signed up, but thanks to Commissioner Adams, we actually got our 12th club signed up. And so we've got a dozen clubs with these trailers scheduled, so I'm really excited to see what this year's going to hold when it comes to donations. A whistle and bell that we've got to toot for a little bit in the program is our new comparative harvest report. Very much detailed. When I talk to other states that gives their reports, we are by far getting into much more greater detail with our clubs. We're providing a better product than we ever have with these reports. And I wanted to just briefly go through this to give you an idea of what we communicate back to them. The clubs do a great job harvesting deer and measuring everything, so we need to do a great job getting back to them. But we break out their harvest by age class. We compare that to the deer zones like you see here. We go into the doe segment and single that out. We're comparing their doe harvest. We let them know how much of that percentage is in the mature age classes, so we know if they're over harvesting or not. We compare their live weights to let them know how their doe weights are stacking up, not only to the deer zone they're in, but also to the deer management unit they're in. And we provide them a target. We let them know what is expected into that region. And so they have an idea of somewhat of a report card on how they're stacking up with their doe section. We do the same thing with our bucks. We give them the buck harvest age structure, we give them the weights, and we use those calculated Gross, Boone, and Crockett scores, not to focus in on the number, but to see the trend line over years to let them know, are they making progress or not? But again, like what you're seeing here on the left, they're getting details of their biometrics and how their deer on their property stack up to the deer zone and also to the entire deer management unit. This is something that's very much complimented by the clubs. I have gotten really nothing but compliments from them. They really appreciate this. And I don't think just a lot of states are doing this in depth of an analysis. If the club does take observation data, we will report this back to them like you see on the right. We will give them targets, and this is a good indicator of letting them know, we're not only telling them what's dead, we're telling them what they're seeing that's alive. So we're providing that live deer aspect of it. Letting them know if their buck-to-doe ratios are acceptable, or if their fawn-to-doe ratios are acceptable. And one of the more detailed parts is the section 6 on the left here. We got a chronic wasting disease section. We used to just say, okay, we got CWD and this is how you should get tested. But we went into a little bit more detail this year. We break it out by the county that the club's in. We tell them how many deer were harvested in that county, how many deer was tested in that county, how many deer were positive in that county. We let them know if they're in the zone or if they're not. Then we, go through the report and tell them, some resources, and we also at the table in their mail-out packet the CWD private lands guides for best management practices on how to handle that on their property. So we've really stepped up for CWD through our clubs. One thing that everybody really likes to key in on is our population surveys. We still do the trail cameras and the spotlight surveys for technical assistance. We really don't do these ourselves. We just teach them how to do them if we choose to. We're in the process of procuring some thermal cameras for our trucks. They're just a little bit more accurate system to replace those spotlight surveys and give us another aspect and another tool in our belt to help these clubs identify how many deer's out there. And the real popular one is the thermal drone survey. We're doing those and trying to expand those. But again, when you got 700 plus clubs, you can only get those. So we really try to focus where those are actually needed and when we spend our time with the drone flights. Number-wise, what did we do last year? So last year was a year for us, revitalization. What does that mean? Over 8,000 biodata records was collected through DMAP. That's a 4.6% increase from the year prior. And what's real important is out of all of the biodata collected in the state, 72% of it come from our DMAP clubs. So it goes back to that goal of robust data sets. The biggest that we've got to report is our observation hours. Again, this is voluntary. We educate them and teach them how, but they're doing this on their own. We had over an 18% increase in our observation hours, logging over 21,000 observation hours. For this coming year, we just finished our enrollment, and we currently have 712 clubs enrolled for this coming deer season. So that's exciting. We're back up over 700 clubs. It's been a long time since we've been that way. That's a 5.5% increase. That increase is the most I've seen since I've been employed here. Those clubs equate 1.4 million acres of private land in the state. 0.7 increase from last year, and that's nearly 5% of the private land in Arkansas is enrolled into this program. I know it might seem like a small number, but it's a big deal to me if we're impacting 5% of land. Most important thing up there is all of these numbers that I just mentioned is the highest numbers that's ever been reported in the last 10 years. So the progress that we've made is showing right here. And I think we can continue to build off this. This is not a stopping point. This is just in the first year. I think we've made great strides here. Map, so what I wanted to show here, what you see in green is our public lands, and I feel like we do an excellent job of habitat management on our public lands. A lot of our WMAs are WMAs for what Habitat can do for you. But there's a lot of white space in between. And so I wanted to overlay our current enrollment of DMAP to show how that helps fill some of that void. And so the red you see there is the private land. It helps increase our footprint on habitat management. And so DMAP is very impactful. Yes, there's a little bit of white space still there, but we are filling that gap with DMAP. This map is a representation geographically of where they're located in the state. Spots are our 1A clubs. That's the areas we typically are overpopulated, depredation issues, and the rest of them is where a lot of our habitat management, the blue dots, the habitat work's being done. What are our next steps? What does second gear look like for us? Well, the foundation of the program, in my opinion, is always built off the relationship to the landowner. So we're definitely looking to strengthen those relationships, spend more time with the clubs. This is where the rubber meets the road. The more trust we build in them, the more trust we're going to have in them doing habitat work off of our recommendations. We're looking to explore more of that timber company lease land options. So I don't need to get into any of the details, but we're trying to develop a cost share in the program to where the folks that lease from the timber companies, where they're typically restricted on habitat work, where we can incentivize them to get some habitat work done to promote early successional habitat out there. DMAP database and apps is still on our priority list. Timmons Group's working with a lot of database stuff with the agency, so we're in line. So I'm hoping that helps us streamline our administrative things that we've got going on. One thing I really want to focus on here shortly is online enrollment option, because we are still doing paper copy. It bogs us down administratively. If I can move to online enrollment options, I think that takes that administrative burden off of us, frees more time with the landowner. And then the last bullet there is DMAP surveys to measure success. We've had a program for a long time, but we got to do a better job of what is the success here. We've got a survey created to help us implement on what's actually happening on the ground, whether or not it's a burn or a TSI, that we don't always just report up here. So there's a lot of success that's going on that we're not measuring properly. So we're going to take better strides at doing that in the. I'll wrap it up here with some take-home messages. It's last year, but I think you can all see from what I've showed you today that DMAP is growing. It's going to continue to grow. And we're going to try to really grow and focus and fill those voids that you've seen in those maps. That's where we're going to put our attention to. We still want to focus and pursue those 3 more full-time positions to fulfill those, on the map you see on the right, those red areas, those red regions. Still got 3 more, because we think that that's really going to help us go to another level that also helps relieve that workload burden on our POBs. We're looking for balance there. We're trying to take a measured approach to this. We're also going to be promoting those cooperatives, looking to those landowners that don't have large acreages, find like-minded ones and build them up to create a bigger footprint. Wanting to grow the refrigerated trailer program. That's why Ronnie's here. We're working hand in hand trying to figure out, because that's such a win-win-win situation. It's just kind of not to do it. And then measure DMAP successes. That's something that I think we've shown success, but we've got to continue to build upon this and be better at it. If I got any time, I don't know if I compromised your record.
Hey, Jeremy,
time here, JD.
I got a question, Jeremy, if you don't mind. Yeah, and by the way, great job. You always do a great job. I appreciate the presentation. Ronnie and I had an opportunity to get together a few weeks ago and talk, and trying to find ways to connect us better to the food banks, which get us to not only that, but the school programs. Mm-hmm. And it seems like the challenge is bridging that gap between getting enough deer into those, we're in a deer shortage. And so we do better as an agency to try to connect that and get maybe somewhat of building a team with not only the food bank, the schools, Ronnie's program, and us, to where I know a lot of people are a little apprehensive about going out and shooting a lot of doe because of the work it requires. And maybe working with them to have certain days or weekends designated for just that purpose of collection, where if we can get a big enough trailer to you get 2 or 3 DMAT programs working, trying to accumulate enough deer over a weekend that we could assimilate a team and bring them all together, and just working with programs like that to fill up, for instance, North Central Arkansas, that 3-county area up there were large food banks in the most impoverished areas, that we can, as a group, pull together these DMAP and show them the importance of not only what they do for the management of deer, but also what they do to help their communities, and trying to pull that together to make that program work better and encourage folks.
I think we just need to get in a room, sit down, and talk about it. The reason this refrigerated trailer thing's taken off this year is we finally all sat down and talked about it. I was talking about it with the clubs because they were complaining about they had nowhere to go with it. Well, Ronnie's talking about it with us because he needs the venison and we're not getting it donated. Once we all sat down and realized who's on first, who's on second, it become easier. So I think if we sit down and we figure out from the food pantries or the food banks what we got to do to get them to you, let me figure out how the clubs can get dead deer on the ground.
So as an example, I would look at this. I would look at a Maverick Trucking or someone who has a reefer division that would donate us a full 48-foot trailer for the weekend or whatever, and pick these things up and run that route for a weekend and gather. You could fit a ton in a trailer point on Monday or Sunday afternoon or whatever to get them into the right place to get them processed.
That's right.
But a coordinating effort like out to our corporate sponsors to see what they can help us. The problem is this: we have plenty of hunters, and we certainly have plenty of hungry people.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just a few small gaps that just doesn't seem that hard be that hard to bridge all those to make this all come together. I'd be more than happy to help all I can.
I agree.
But I think that's where we need to find just the little gaps that we need to fill in, and I think we can.
I agree with that. And just like this refrigerated trailer thing, it's almost grown to, we're trying to grow and make sure our staff can keep up with this workload. But we're already overbooked. We're double booking trailers right now. So if we could have another avenue of taking, we can't pay our folks to just run around and pull a trailer around. We got to do management. But if we can find that person or that gap to fill there, that'd be great.
Up a weekend and concentrated it. That's the one thing about it. So the last question, with that being said, do we feel comfortable that we have the processing opportunities that we're not going to run into a situation where we have more deer than we can process? That problem?
I won't say we won't be able to process the deer, but we are having to selectively pick our processors that can fulfill the work. They're not just distributed evenly across the state. We watch for CWD transportation stuff, so we're already strategically or methodically having to plan this out on the front end. So it would be nice to have more of flexibility with our processors and having them readily available. But that would help for certain.
Yeah, again, when you identify those gaps, Phil, I'd love to know it. And I'd love to help you.
And Ronnie would probably. I always look at Ronnie. He knows those meat processors way more than we do. And when it comes to, hey, Ronnie, I got dead deer, he just tells me where I need to go with them.
Coordination. There's enough processors out there, but we would want to overload a processor on particular weekends. I know you and I had that discussion a couple of weeks ago, so I think we can make this work. We're just going to have to kind of work through some kinks as we get along, but I think it's all doable, and I've been praying about this for 10 years with all these big clubs that the possibility is always out there. It's just now we're at that point where we can make that happen.
Hey, Ronnie, you just need one thing.
And that's where y'all can help us do what we're doing is helping feed hungry people. This national program is just blown up, and we don't have enough. We need about between 600 and 700 deer donated this year to meet last year's goal of 126,000 packages, 98 schools. I just have to turn them down because I just don't have it. And food pantries like church food pantries, they're always needing that meat. There's always going to be a huge need there. So the deer it's out there, we just have to coordinate the process to make it happen,
So how much are the trailers? How much does the trailer cost?
They've gone up. We used to be able to buy them for $18,000. They're mid-20s or so now. And that's one of the nice we've got, 8 by 10.
How many do you have?
We've currently got 2 floaters. We've got one situated at Hot Springs Village, urbanized, Hot Springs Village, Cherokee Village, and Fairfield Lake. So we keep those there for about 3 months. After that, they're available to do other things. So if we get close to shoot here after that first 3 months, say December to January, we have a lot more available. But a lot of clubs want to shoot them early.
I think it's that initial wave that rather than buy a bunch more trailers, because once the season's over, they sit for the rest of the year. But if you could get some corporate sponsors that do reefer trailers,
Yeah.
that you could get those spot throughout. You're talking about a 2 or 3 weekend period that you could really jam this thing up and get the DMAP programs involved. That because as you well know, and you know this, there's so many of them that would, hey, we take all these, but what are we going to do with them?
Yeah.
But if we had a coordinated effort on our part to say, hey, look, we've got reefer trailers, seven places that you could take from here to here and connect those dots, I think we could make such an impact.
I agree.
That if we work with that, and not only just us, the foundation and others, and bringing that awareness, we're the trucking industry.
Yeah.
There's not somewhere we can't get 3 or 4 trailers donated for a period of time to get this through to, I think it'd make a great partnership.
We're currently having to go out of state and make these snack sticks, and we've been but they don't have that piece of equipment that can mass produce these things. They can do a couple thousand near enough. So when I carry a load up to Missouri, if I carry a load next week, I'll have about 2,000 pounds in my Dodge Dually. And a lot of people don't realize that one Joe Deere, just average size Joe Deere, produce about 200 packages of snack sticks. So obviously we can't do it we want to, but that's a good point for us to remember. It's like, one Deere, they take a lot.
Thank you, Ronnie, for all you do, and Jeremy, great report.
Thank you.
All right.
Jody, I've got one question, just a quick one. What is your opinion on the DMAC clubs hiring their own biologists to help you all with the process?
Well, they can help us and they can hurt us, just depending on the communication, like what Commissioner Finley has said. As long as they're willing to communicate with us and let us know what's going on, because part is if we provide a report, but we're not the one on doing the habitat stuff, doing those in-depth looks, it's hard to write that plan. So if they do it, well, that's fine. It actually helps some of our workload when they do it properly. And as long as the factor and a good communication, we can honor that and issue the tax, helps balance our workloads. And as long as that's preserved, then it's a good deal. Where it can be bad is if the consulting biologist goes off and does their own thing, don't really report to us, but they just come to us for tags. And so when we issue tags, we kind of need to know what we're issuing it for. Why are we giving you 50 tags or 100 tags? We need to know why, so it don't really make our program. We don't want our program to look bad just by feeding tags for the wrong reasons. So as long as we can communicate and share management plans. And the one thing we don't want is a consulting biologist to write a plan for a club, and then the DMAP program write a plan for the club and they not match up, because a confused hunter is a bad hunter. They're not making good decisions when they're confused. We need to be synergized on that.
Don't you have a certain criteria that they have to do before you'll give them the tags?
There's certain level or standard, yes, but we need to do a better job in our DMAP SOP at spelling that out. When we're going to be revising that SOP next year, the 2025 season is when that will expire to renew. That's one of my tasks, is to spell those standards out a little bit better. So we don't just have anybody running around writing management plans. They have to uphold a standard for us to issue the tags to them.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy. Any more questions? Next up, Director Booth, give us your report.
Good morning, everybody. Good to see full house here at Pettigene. I want to echo what Chairman Neely said about the level of hospitality and beauty that we've surrounded ourselves this week here at Pettigene. So many thanks to Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism for having such a wonderful treasure here at Pettigene. Also want to thank Mother Nature and our deer hunters for their hard work and hopefully good times in our first ever velvet season that we had in September. I think the biggest kudos goes to Mother Nature for providing us with some incredible weather, which is what was on most people's mind when they were thinking about sweating in a deer stand at 6 o'clock in the morning in September, killing mosquitoes, ticks, chiggers, and whatnot. And for the first season that we had for this incredible but brief opportunity, we harvested more than 1,200 deer during that weekend. So an important time for our agency and certainly something to be proud of. Also want to thank the staff that took us out to Ed Gordon yesterday. Such an incredible place and even more special that it is in the River Valley. Oftentimes when we see that many groceries for ducks, we think about the Delta. And we think about the eastern part of the state with a bunch of cereal crops. But it's awesome to see the work that's gone into that moist soil unit, and in addition to the waterfowl habitat that we have there, to see the upland management and the resurgence of bobwhite quail at Ed Gordon, one of our wildlife management areas, has been awesome. However, I want to really draw a very important connection between the presentation that we just heard from Jeremy and the growth and revitalization of our DMAP program, draw an important connection between that and what we saw at Ed Gordon yesterday. And that connection is this, that when this agency has the resources and the clear prioritization that it needs to be successful, our staff will follow through. We look at Ed Gordon to see where that wildlife management area has come from, meeting both not only the habitat needs for waterfowl, but also for quail as well. Combined with DMAP, given new levels of resources and support for this agency, I could not be more proud of how our staff have delivered both on the ground at Ed Gordon and also on the ground throughout over 400 deer clubs throughout Arkansas. I also want to recognize Bruce Stanton and Pradco. A couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to travel to Fort Smith at the Marshals Museum, where the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service came in partnership with Pradco to host basically what they call a partner with a payer event. These are kind of grassroots focused events where the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service can come in partnership with a local payer. What's a payer? It is a entity, a business that pays into wildlife and sport fish restoration dollars. For those of y'all that know anything about the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, those WISFR dollars are the lifeblood of what we do. They not only offer the agency a 75-25 match with federal dollars, but they also offer us the opportunity to partner with industry. It is industry that pays into these excise taxes that then turn around and go right back out on the landscape throughout the country. And it is this partnership with the industry that is so important for the long-term success of conservation in North America. So it was a great opportunity for us to, again, be in the River Valley, but to be arm in arm with Pradco and celebrate the depth of our relationship with them, as we also recognize with clear eyes the challenges that we face in conservation ahead. Lastly, I want to end on the same note that I ended, I believe, a year ago, and by the end of this month, and that's safety. Yesterday, we received a presentation from Joe Huggins on the hunter incidents from the 23-24 hunting season. And almost every single one of them involved young men and an elevated hunting platform. So whether you're choosing to chase bear or deer, or I encourage everybody, wear a harness and hook it up, because the only thing that we want more than for people to get outside and enjoy the outdoors is to do it safely.
Committee meeting reports. And at this time, Vice Chairman Doremus, Chair of Budget, will you give us your report?
Thank you, Chairman Neely. Good morning, everybody. Budget Committee met yesterday. We had one discussion item. Our CFO, Emily Shoemate, delivered a report of the agency's financial status at the end of fiscal year 2024. There were no action items, no new business, no old business, and we were adjourned.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Doremus. Next, Commissioner Finley, Chair of Regulations. Will you give us your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had one discussion item yesterday. Frank Leone presented an update on the fisheries management projects and processes in District 9. And one action item, Matthew Warner presented a third-party request to allow modified AR-15 rifles to be used during the alternative firearms season. The committee unanimously voted to deny the request. There was no new business, no old business, and we were adjourned.
All right, thank you. Next, Commissioner Adams, Chair of Education and IT-GIS. Will you give us your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had one discussion items. Joe Huggins presented an update on the agency's hunter education program with recent successes and future goals. We had no action items, no new business, no old business, and we were adjourned.
Thank you. Next, Dr. Michelle Evans-White, Chair of Research Review Committee. Would you please give us your report?
Thanks, Chairman Neely. We had one discussion item. A.J. Riggs reported on the 24-25 CWD surveillance project. We had no action items, no new business, and no old business.
All right, great report. And finally, Commissioner Jones, Chair of Personnel and Governance Committee. Would you give us your report?
Thank you, Chairman. We had one discussion item. John Marks delivered the agency's legal report. One action item. John Marks presented an action item for the election of new game wardens and other GFFC employees. The committee unanimously gave the motion a due pass. There was no new business, there was no old business, and we were adjourned.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Jones. Now for the business items being brought before the Commission. Item 5A, the election of new game wardens and other AGFC employees. Our attorney, John Marks, you have the floor.
As I mentioned yesterday, the literal reading of Amendment 35 requires that the Commission elect its employees, and the abundance of caution, although we don't think that that literal reading is, really requires that, in the abundance of caution, we have you do this, especially for our game wardens, to make sure that there's not any sort of challenges to their authority to do what they do. So it did get a due pass from Personnel Governance, and we would ask for your approval today.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Jones, was this approved by Personnel and Governance Committee?
Yes, it received a due pass.
Okay. We have a motion to approve this request. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion is approved. Thank you, John Marks.
I feel very elected. Thank you.
All right. Our third-party rulemaking request, Matthew Warner, items 5. B is third-party rulemaking request, and Matthew, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Neely. Good morning, everyone. Denying this request can be found in your backup material. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, no questions. Commissioner Finley, was this approved in your Regulations Committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it was.
All right, I have a motion. Is there any new business to be brought before the Commission today? Any old business? Is there any motion for executive session?
No, sir, executive session.
All right. And with no other business to be discussed, this meeting is adjourned.